Slava Jesus Christus, Slava Navika. Glory be to Jesus Christ, glory be forever. It's Father Basil again doing another podcast and reading from this document again. Love is our mission, the family fully alive, from the Preparatory Catechesis for the World Meeting of Families, Philadelphia 2015. And this section is called Why the Church Does Not Endorse So-Called Same-Sex Marriage. Premising marriage as mainly erotic or emotional satisfaction, which is a step made easier by the separation of sex and procreation, also enables arguments for same-sex unions. In some countries today, there are movements to redefine marriage as if it could include any strong, effective, or sexual relationship between any consenting adults. Where divorce and contraception are established habits, and this revised vision of marriage has taken root. Redefining marriage to include same-sex marriage could seem a plausible next step. With respect to the idea of same-sex marriage, as is well known, the Church declines to bless or to sanction it. This does not imply any denigration or failure to appreciate the intensity of same-sex friendships and love. As should be clear at this point in this catechesis, the Catholic Church holds that everyone is called to give and receive love. Committed, sacrificial, chaste, same-sex friendships should be esteemed. Because Catholics are committed to love, hospitality, interdependence, and bearing one another's burdens, the Church at all levels will want to nurture and support opportunities for chaste friendship, always seeking solidarity with those who, for whatever reason, are unable to marry. True friendship is an ancient and honorable vocation. Saint Ariad of Lisieux observed that the desire for a friend arises from deep within the soul. True friends produce a fruit and a sweetness as they help each other respond to God, encouraging one another in living the gospel. Whether it develops between persons of the same or opposite sex, friendship represents a great good for all. It leads to spiritual communion. But as should also be clear by now, when Catholics speak of marriage, we are referring to something distinct from other relationships, a particularly intense love, even if that love is deep and endures sacrificially and over long periods of time. Intense, long-term, effective intimacy is not sufficient for a marriage. Marriage, as indeed was universally recognized until very recently in the West, is premised on the duties arising from the possibilities and challenges posed by the procreative potential of a man and a woman. The Church invites all men and women to see in their sexuality the possibility of a vocation. To reach maturity as a man or a woman means engaging certain questions to oneself. How is God calling me to integrate my sex into His plan for my life? Created in the image of God, our destiny is always communion, sacrifice, service, and love. The question for each and every one of us is how we will donate the sexual aspects of our lives in marriage or in celibate community. In neither case is our erotic desire or romantic preference sovereign or autonomous. In both cases, we will inevitably be called upon to make sacrifices, which we would not choose if we were writing our own scripts. The philosophical, legal, and political context for marriage today. Debates about redefining marriage, including questions of same-sex marriage, raise legal and political questions. In political theory and theology, Catholics speak of the family as a pre-political institution. To put it another way, the family is legally antecedent to civil society, the community, and the political state, since the family is founded more immediately in nature. Society does not invent or found the family. Rather, the family is the foundation of society. The family in which the various generations come together and help one another grow wiser and harmonize personal rights with the other requirements of social life is the very foundation of society. Public authority thus has a duty to protect and serve the family. Until recently, this view of the family was widely accepted by non-Catholics as well. The 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights insists that the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state. But as more jurisdictions reimagine marriage as a matter of individual preference, dropping any organic connections to sexual difference and procreation, and promoting a contractual view of marriage, this consensus disappears. Today, the state purports more and more to invent marriage and redefine it at will. Allegedly, the family no longer builds society in the state. Rather, the state now presumes to supervise and license the family. Some legislators are now trying to codify this philosophic reversal in the new marriage laws. Instead of receiving marriage as an institution founded on nature, the new perspective regards marriage as infinitely plastic, as subordinate and malleable to political will. The Church has no choice but to resist this revisionism for the sake of protecting families, marriages, and children. A society that mistakenly thinks marriage is always renegotiable, accountable only to self-referential human consent, will see marriage essentially as a contract, as a voluntary agreement between autonomous bearers of the individual rights. But these mere contracts are not the same as a marriage founded on a covenant of mercy. The logic of such contracts is not the Pauline logic of Ephesians 5, in which husbands and wives love one another in the manner of the cross. The reasoning behind such defective contracts is at odds with the gift of marriage as a sacrament of the covenant. The Church is obliged to resist the spread of false rationales for marriage. Pope Francis has observed, again and again, the Church has acted as a mediator in finding solutions to problems affecting peace, social harmony, the land, the defense of life, human and civil rights, and so forth. And how much good has been done by Catholic schools and universities around the world. This is a good thing. Yet we find it difficult to make people see that when we raise other questions less palatable to public opinion, we are doing so out of fidelity to precisely the same convictions about human dignity and the common good. As we said at the start of this catechesis, all of the Church's teachings about marriage, the family, and sexuality flow from Jesus. Catholic moral theology is a coherent narrative that satisfies humanity's deepest questions. A single unified narrative flowing from basic Christian convictions about God's creation and covenant, humanity's fall, and Christ's incarnation, life, crucifixion, and resurrection. These teachings involve costs and suffering for all who would be Jesus' disciples, but they also open up new opportunities for beauty and human flourishing. When the true nature of marriage is undermined or poorly understood, the family is weakened. When the family is weak, we are all prone to a type of brutal individualism. We too easily lose the habit of Christ's gentleness and the discipline of His covenant. When the family is strong, when the family creates space for husbands, wives, and their children to practice the art of self-giving after the patterns of God's covenant, then light enters a dark world. In this light, the true nature of humanity can be seen. That is why the Church resists the shadows threatening the family. All of us are fallen. The disorder in each and every human heart has a social context and social consequences. The communion for which we were created the communion for which we were created is threatened by our disordered desires, our economic situations, by pornography, contraception, divorce, and legal or intellectual confusion. But love is our mission, and the church seeks an alternative social life, a community premised on Jesus' mercy, generosity, freedom, and fidelity. The church's many ministries further the culture of life, such aid to the poor, support for natural family planning, or articulating a more coherent philosophy for law. When Catholics resist divorce, or same-sex marriage, or confused revisions to marital law, we are also taking responsibility for fostering communities of support and love. So here are some questions to think about. What are the connections between the church's care for the poor and the church's teaching about sex and chastity? What is the difference between contraception and natural family planning? What is the common denominator between divorce, contraception, and same-sex marriage? What challenges to chastity exist in your community, and where should a person in your parish go to learn about the church's perspective? How can your parish support people who want to live the church's teachings? So, as a priest, sometimes I have to talk about things that are not viewed very well in society. So most of our society is now supporting abortion, euthanasia, contraception, same-sex marriage. Most of society says, well, there's nothing wrong with those things. As a priest, I have to voice the church's view about what these things are. And this is why this document was very, very straight to the point about why marriage can only be blessed by the church if it is one man and one woman, and the dangers I've talked about before, the dangers of abortion, the danger of contraception, and how they lead to a very selfish, a very closed-minded society where we don't sacrifice for one another. And the divorce is part of it, And again, marriages are not easy. I understand that. Marriages are never going to be easy. But we have to, trust in the Lord to help us, to grow strong families, as this document says. Family is the foundation of society. There can be no doubt about that. If we don't have strong families, our society suffers greatly. And this is where the divorce culture, the contraceptive culture, the abortion culture has really affected our society in a negative way. And there can be no doubt about that. Anyways, God bless you. Have a good day.